Duke wearing their home whites, and the Razorbacks in their traveling red. And have they brought a lot of fans up out of Arkansas here today. The tap is controlled by the taller Duke Blue Devils, and Ricky on a pass from Henderson.
Brent, Credit was not ready for the jump. He was looking down. That's why Duke got such a big advantage.
Mayberry is 11, penetrates beautifully. Abdelnaby influenced the shot. Leitner, and it's Duke's ball. Bricky left-hands it into the hands of Hurley. Knocked away, though, from that quickness of Bowers coming from the rear. Arlen Bowers out of Memphis, Tennessee, knocked it away for Coach Nolan Richardson.
Nolan's got the red cowboy boots to match that tie today.
Abdelnaby tracks it down. Billy, you were telling me if there's any edge in this game, it's inside on the blocks, the Duke height.
That's something, though, that Arkansas has an opportunity to match up pretty well in this zone that they're playing. But there's a good example, Brent. Whatever they do, they're going to have Leitner and Abdelnaby coming from sides, which can be tough for Howell.
This is Day off the penetration, a smooth score. Lindsey Howell, who's had a great tournament, digs it out. And Mayberry with a miss, and Abdelnaby off with the rebound into the hands of Hurley. And so far, the full court pressure hasn't been a factor because they haven't been coming off of made baskets or anything down here. Knocked by Bowers, but Henderson's got a shot at it, and he tracks it down.
Well, Bowers had an easy two-handed catch on that play, just turned it back over. There you can see the matchup zone. Some holes right down in the middle of this zone for dribble penetration. There's an example.
Now, Credit did a good job of knocking the ball free, but they turn it over.
Arkansas a little shaky so far, not playing their normal game. They have only had one real run in this tournament, that being the game that they played against North Carolina.
Billy, I guess that the Razorbacks in this Final Four, this group of Razorbacks, over all the schools been there 4 times, but I think we can understand they would tend to be a little more nervous than Duke because this is the 3rd straight year for the Duke seniors now.
That's true, and also this is a very young Arkansas club, maybe a year away from being an experienced team you'd expect to be in a Final Four.
Now, Billy, here's a very key thing in the game. Abdelnaby putting in the field goal was fouled. Anytime you can get Abdelnaby or Leitner up to the free throw line after a made field goal.
It's an excellent move by Duke. You can see they're throwing the ball right over the top of the people out front in the zone. And there again, the weak side help that was not available at all because you have a size factor, 6'10" against 6'5". Howell just too small on that back line.
Now let's keep in mind that Duke took a huge lead on Seton Hall last year in Seattle. It was 26-8 before they lost that game. And they're off to another great start in this one. That final a year ago was 95-78.
Beautiful dribbling by Hurley.
That's what Bowers does, though. He'll come from the backside on you. You have to watch the Arkansas speed on defense. But Leitner and Abdelnaby are causing great problems. There's another foul. Billy, the one move that Coach Richardson told us he could make is put Oliver Miller on the inside with Credit. Do you think he'll have to go to that?
Yeah, we'll see that quickly in my estimation. You can see that Duke is penetrating the matchup zone very easily with the dribble. Abdelnaby all alone. If it's not for Day, he's got an easy 2, even though he comes up with a foul. So the answer is Oliver Miller going with Credit. It's something that Nolan Richardson would not like to do early because he'd like to wear Duke down a little bit. But the size factor here is obviously noticeable.
Well, it's interesting when Coach K goes out to recruit a player for Duke, especially a big man like Abdelnaby. He watches very carefully how they shoot free throws. He wants his big men to be able to hit free throws. He says it's critical in the late stages of a game. There now is a lead pass to smooth Lindsey Howell. They bring it back through Bowers.
Nice job by Bricky to pick up defensively.
And Dave puts the Razorbacks on the board, and with that 3, it's 8-3, and they are all over Hurley now. Here it comes after the made field goal, and the freshman able to get it into Henderson's hands.
Double team in on the full court pressure.
Ricky smoothly comes down the baseline, took his time, was very patient.
When I said it last year, I thought if Ricky had not gone down with an injury, Duke would have been in that final game. He's a key player for them, and matching up now with Lindsey Howell.
No shot! No shot, according to Burr. You could hear the call underneath the basket. Henderson with the first personal for Coach Mike Krzyzewski. This is how Arkansas battled its way here. You have to win 6 games to capture a national championship. Princeton, again, giving them a lot of trouble with that slowdown game. Dayton, they played their best game probably against North Carolina, and then they beat Texas. And you've got to be impressed with an Arkansas team that can handle a tough Texas bunch 3 times this year, buddy.
Exactly. You see Hurley really laying off Bowers right now so he can double team. There he is again. Good double team by Hurley.
Nice jumper by Howell. Boy, that was great ability to rise up in the air, get above the defense that time. And here's Hurley coming right up with the dribble off the penetration. Abdelnaby, the freshman, whipped the press.
Hurley throws the defender with a look-away pass. Olive really held his ground well, too, to give a good passing lane in the angle. You can see Leitner at 6'10" out there on day. Now, he's not used to playing a man that far from the basket. He could have some trouble out there.
Off the missed three, Blue Devils come back with an early 12-5 lead. Here in the first half of our opening game, UNLV and Georgia Tech next.
One step beyond the range that Bricky would like.
Howell for the three. Duke's ball.
Brent, do you notice the players are slowing down noticeably, running up and down the floor? I wonder if altitude has hit them right away. I mean, it's noticeable here, and the game is only a few minutes old.
And Richardson has 3 substitutes up, 2 for Duke, so both coaches noticed the same thing. Bang, Henderson with that smooth jumper for Duke makes it 14-5. Billy, talk about the altitude problems out here and exactly what the players are experiencing right now.
Well, none of these clubs are used to playing at altitude. You know, Duke tried to go into that semi-altitude situation they have at Duke Medical School, but that was only for a day. Nobody has been out here to really get adjusted to it. And Denny Crum told me yesterday that the players are definitely going to notice it out here. I talked to Jim Calhoun, who's a runner this morning, and he said when he went out to run, 5 miles is usually no problem. After 3, he was in trouble.
Hurley, foul, is going to be able to come up to the free throw line. That's on Mario Credit. So we've got play stopped here. And now for Credit, his second personal foul. Duke's road, and you mentioned Connecticut. And of course, that was the team they had to beat to get into the championship. Jim Calhoun did a splendid job of coaching the Huskies. That was one of the great games of the tournament, 79-78. And now both teams early go to their bench, and there's the big O, the man you talked about. That's Oliver Miller, who is out there. Abdelnaby's over talking to his coach. Used to be a lot bigger. He's lost about 40 pounds. Has a thyroid problem. A lot of people think it's just because of eating, but he had that problem this summer, and they had to give him medicine to help him cut back and lose some weight as Hurley misses one of the free throws.
Brett, you talk about free throw shooting. Bobby Hurley, this Duke team shoots 76% as a ball club. So Hurley at 77, very unusual to see your point guard way behind the guys in the front line from the free throw line. But he is at 76%, one of their poorer free throw shooters.
Missing twice, gets it back with a nice pass to Leitner, and Leitner will come up with Miller picking up his first personal.
Of course, Christian Leitner is the fella responsible with that great shot against Connecticut in the dying seconds. Was a sensational shot on that particular play, knowing that Oliver Miller is a great shot blocker. What Christian did is use his body to ward off the ball and the opportunity for Oliver to get a hand on it.
Hurley is going back to the locker room. He was jogging back, so perhaps it's not an injury. He just has to go back inside, and we'll check on that for a time. So who do they replace him with, Billy? Who's the young man who fills in?
McCaffrey in the game. Not a ball handler in any way, shape, or form, the likes of Hurley. So the press should work now for Arkansas. And there's Christian Leitner hitting 2, the ACC's #1 free throw shooter.
An impressive start for Coach K and the Blue Devils. We're coming right back. Well, here in Denver, Duke leads at 16-5. Bobby Hurley left the floor, and Leslie Visser, what's his situation?
Brent, Bobby Hurley is still in the dressing room. The trainer, Max Crowder, said it's really nothing. It might be a little bit of an upset stomach, but he should be back within the next couple minutes.
Thank you, Leslie. Ron Hury, who came in off the bench, number 31, was handling the ball. Ernie Murray also on the floor, as is Darrell Hawkins. And this is Mayberry, who has played the distance with his first field goal of the day, making it 16-7. So early in the game, Coach Richardson puts in 4 subs to work with Mayberry.
Brent, tough time for Duke University without Hurley. Hurley has that problem with his stomach. He had it against Connecticut. Of course, it didn't bother him eventually, but he had a very sick stomach before the game. Ball handling a factor here. Man-to-man by Arkansas now with lots of pressure.
They were all over McCaffrey. Ball out of bounds. That was Murray hounding him and getting the ball out of bounds. It's the kind of game that Coach Richardson wants. He wants a helter-skelter game. Coach K, he wants a prettier game. Half court. He wants to see well-executed plays. McCaffrey lost the handle, and it's Arkansas's ball, and so the absence of Bobby Hurley beginning to tell here right away. Knocked out of bounds by Hill.
Brennan, a couple of things help Nolan Richardson here. With Hurley out of the game, he can go with his substitute and play a defensive basketball game. With Duke not having anybody, really they can count on to initiate the offense.
Hawkins swings free and kisses the glass for 2 more, and it's 16-9. And they will turn the pressure up now if they can.
Be a good idea to let Leitner bring the ball up court because Oliver Miller's on him and he's giving him room.
It has been Henderson a couple of trips, however, bringing it up on Mayberry. McCaffrey hit and fouled. Fury coming over on him, and so that will send Billy McCaffrey up to the free throw line. He's hit 4 of the 7 free throws that he has attempted in the NCAA tournament so far. Team fouls now beginning to tell. Arkansas with 5 already, and Duke with only 1.
McCaffrey has been off the bench with 11 double-figure games as a freshman, but a lot of those were in the first half of the season. He's cooled off lately. Pennsylvania Player of the Year.
Todd Day on this dead ball will check back into the game for the Razorbacks. And Mayberry now will take a break. So Coach Richardson getting all of his starters a rest here in the early going. So far for Duke, Leitner out on the floor, as is Henderson. And we see over on the bench now that Bobby Hurley has returned. And they're going to get him back onto the floor as quickly as they can, along with Abdel Nabi.
Good cut by Hurry.
Knock it in now to Miller, who bumps against Leitner and gets his spot. Goes up for an offensive rebound. Foul is called.
Let's see if they give
it's
him
going to be
no
against
basket.
Miller. And I don't believe they gave him the field goal.
Correct.
They waved it off. Hurley returns to the lineup with the score 17-9.
Brent ought to point out, too, that this Arkansas club used to coming back. They were down 20-9 against Princeton in this NCAA tournament opening round, down by 18 against Houston in their Southwest Conference tournament. So it's not something that this team can't come back from. Man-to-man now. Arkansas putting a lot of pressure on the ball.
Abdel Nabi muscling inside and into Hurry's hands with the rebound. The Razorbacks come down. Hawkins is open.
Great lead pass.
Arkansas back to within 6.
Hurley looked for Davis on the long pass. Smartly did not throw.
Henderson. And Miller gets the rebound into Hurry's hands. And look at Hawkins break down on that wing. Bricky got back quickly, and now Hurry with daylight. He got around Davis and went for 2, and it's back to 4.
And Nolan Richardson getting it done with the bench. And his bench has been the most productive of any of the 4 teams that are in this tournament.
This is an 8-1 Razorback run right now as Hurley swings free. Day reaching around, couldn't knock it out. Abdel Nabi on the low block.
Hurley doing a good job not to pick up the charge.
Miller's open, lost the handle.
Mike Krzyzewski would like to slow this pace down just a little bit, get back into his half-court offense where he can utilize his 2 big men.
Credit back in, Miller will sit down. And that, of course, the graphic illustrating what I told you in the early going when Duke streaked out on top. 19-13. Duke leading it by 6. The press is set. They go over the top with their bad pass. And they collide. Bricky going to be called for the foul, and what caused it is the bad pass.
Well, Bobby Hurley signaled for the long lob, but there wasn't enough arc on it for him to run underneath it, and he just couldn't track it down. Good job by Bowers to pick up, and Mario Credit hustled from that safety position in the press.
Now Richardson is back with Howell and Day and Credit and Bowers and Mayberry, his starting 5. They have all been rested. They come in down 6. They were a little shaky in the early going. Let's see what they can do now. This is Day.
Beautiful fake.
Splendid player. Abdel Nabi collapsing on him on the inside. Commits his first personal.
And that's what you have when you have a player like Day that's got the great jump shot. Leitner could do nothing on that pass other than go out and challenge him for the jumper. Excellent fake by Day to go right around him. Day has grown to about 6'8" now. He has a jump shot that's just effortless from as far out as 26, 27 feet.
This is his first free throw of the game. Actually, it was Arkansas's first free throw, too.
Looking at the career and seasonal three-point champ for Arkansas. Just a brilliant shooter.
19-15. First half, and there's Leitner, Billy, helping out in the backcourt, like you said. Nice pass to Abdelnaby, and he had a good touch.
How about the catch? That ball was thrown like a rocket.
That's 10 points for Ala Abdelnaby, so they're having difficulty in defending the 6', 10" senior. Loose underneath the basket, and it's going to be Duke's ball, I believe. It is. We'll come back. Blue Devils with the lead, 21-15, and the timeout in Denver.
Really fine execution against the press. You can see that Arkansas has all their players, 4 players on this side. Mario Credit the only man back. As the ball goes to Leitner, he can go up court all the way, and watch how this establishes a very easy 2-on-1 break. Ricky throwing the ball over to Ala Abdelnaby for the dunk. Fine execution by Duke.
With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger. 21-15. Duke with the lead in the first of our 2 national semifinal games, and the foul called against the Blue Devils, who streaked to an early lead in this game. Arkansas's 2 shooting stars, Day and Mayberry, have been struggling. They are a combined 2 of 7 in this game, and Abdelnaby has outscored the 2 of them. Mario Credit steps to the line, and there is Lee Mayberry. Only a sophomore, been averaging almost 15 points a tournament game for Coach Richardson.
All right, 2 now, guys.
Brent, we can remember, and although you have to consider the opponent, it was Loyola Marymount, so you run up some big stats. Last year, Credit had 34 points and 14 rebounds in the biggest game of his career against them. Has shared time this year, obviously, with Oliver Miller. Shot that quickly, didn't even get relaxed.
He has hit 15 of 21 free throws for the tournament after missing those 2. Very important for Richardson as he tries to guide his team from behind to hit those free throws. Abdelnaby been red hot. He moves his game to the outside and knocks it down.
Talk about a senior that has come alive down the stretch.
He's been the key. Now with the interception on the high pass, he's scored 12. He's hit 5 of 6 from the field. And the Blue Devils lead at 23-15.
Talking about a career 8-point per game type scorer. Now a 20-point per game player in the NCAA tournament. Just too big for him inside.
Leitner puts it back in.
What Nolan Richardson has got to do, and he's going to try to do it with the subs coming back in, is get this game into more of a 75-foot game. When it's nearly half court, Duke has too much size.
Hurley staying with Bowers, who gets him on the inside and is short. Good defense by the freshman guard. Now coming back is Day and taps it up and in. So he saves it down there for the Razorbacks. 7 now for Day.
What Hurley is motioning to the referee to say, hey, that was 5 seconds, and he's pretty good at that. Against a fella that wants to put the ball on the floor like Bowers, Hurley will stay right with him by moving his feet.
Throws a bad pass that time. Out of bounds, Arkansas ball. And again, Coach Richardson goes back to that Razorback bench, and also the Blue Devils will send in Ted Kubek into the game. This is his first appearance of the afternoon. I should say Greg Kubek, the 6'6" junior. So Greg Kubek, number 22, on the floor. He'll take Hawkins right now in the man-to-man defense, and he goes with him. Miller has it knocked free by Bricky. Mayberry. Here's the smooth Howell coming inside, and he'll get his way to the free throw line.
Lindsey Howell may play the change with the pass better than anybody I've seen in a long time in college basketball. You watch him catch and turn those feet without walking. A good task if you can get by with it, and it's something the defender has a hard time handling.
Something you look for with a team that has a chance to win a national championship is someone who improves his game in the tournament, as Lindsey Howell has. After averaging 14 points during the regular season, he's averaging almost 20 points a game during the 4 tournament victories by the Razorbacks.
He was the MVP of the Midwest Regional, along with Mayberry and Oliver Miller coming off the bench, made all tourney teams. So Lindsey has come to the front. I guess the first time we recognized him on a national scene was when he was the MVP of the Southwest Conference tournament last year. (25-19). Hurley, short. And it is Duke's ball. Out of bounds. Belongs to the Blue Devils. Bobby Hurley is a master with that crossover dribble, isn't he? They haven't been able to tie him up yet in that full court pressure. I guess the key for Nolan Richardson is to wear him down as opposed to trying to steal the ball. Back to the zone. Nice bounce pass.
Leitner coming through, and Miller was with him defensively. Razorback ball, and the Big O, strong defense in on the paint. Comes down with Hury and Howell and Hawkins and Mayberry now offensively for the Razorbacks. Howell's going to be short. Leitner's ball.
That block by Miller puts him #1 in all time at Arkansas.
Henderson up over the top. You know, Arkansas is not shooting well enough to have an effective full court press, are they? After a missed shot with a Duke rebound, they can't get set in time. They're only hitting 37% here in the first half, and that is really affecting them defensively. Mayberry's 3 is short again, and Leitner go after still another rebound now. Lead pass, Mayberry will knock it out of bounds. Duke ball.
A little bit too aggressive. Mike Krzyzewski's done a great job with Bobby Hurley, and the fact that Hurley is always trying to force things up court, and if when you take a freshman and take away that ability, you know, he'd probably be tentative, but that's not the case at all. Great coach-player relationship.
Billy McCaffrey on the floor now with Hurley, along with Davis, Kubek, and Leitner for Duke.
What's the Final Four become, Brent? Freshman backcourts. I mean, you just don't expect that under this pressure.
High, and Arkansas's ball on the turnover. They don't even get a shot. Mayberry
looking for the trailer.
Howell. He is fouled. McCaffrey fouled him. And Howell will work his way back to that free throw line again. Well, you mentioned freshman point guards in our second game today for Georgia Tech. Kenny Anderson is such a delight. If you haven't seen him play, you're going to enjoy him, I'm sure, and he'll be matched against a very tough defensive team in the running Rebs of Las Vegas as Todd Day returns for the Razorbacks, along with Abdul Nabi for the Blue Devils. Duke has led it since the opening tap. Their biggest lead was 11 points, 16-5.
Brett, you can see that Mike Krzyzewski has now gone to the rotation of Leitner and Abdul Nabi sharing time in there, so he becomes smaller. Much better matchup for Arkansas.
Abdul Nabi with another Duke rebound. So the size of Abdul Nabi and Leitner, the big factor on the inside in this game. And so far, Arkansas not shooting well enough to really set up that full court press.
There's that matchup zone with Day out front with those long arms.
It'll be Kubek over Miller. Intercepted by McCaffrey on the bad pass by Day, and Hurley brings it back. McCaffrey rims out. Day away with the rebound.
He got
comes out with elbows.
Pretty nice piece of officiating there, because that one could have been called.
Run down by Bricky, but he was stepping on the line, and let's take a look at that rebound by Day.
Well, it shows you Bricky right on his back. Good block out by Day, and when he went with that elbow, he was in trouble, Brent. Got away with it.
Timeout. 27-20. Duke leads it by 7. The Final Four happening here in McNichols in Denver, Colorado, with Duke leading Arkansas 27-20. With Billy Packer, I'm Brent Musburger, and that's the storyline that we have been documenting here for you so far this afternoon. 22 of Duke's 27 points from the starting front court. Arkansas trouble down low and not shooting well. They have only one field goal over the last 5 minutes, and they missed that time. But Curie and Abdelnaby fouled him, and it looked from this angle like he had mostly ball, but perhaps it was the body that got him.
Good action by Arkansas following up. Miller with those soft hands. Curie on the inside. I believe he got him with the body, Brent.
And the second foul on Ala Abdelnaby.
Matter of fact, I think Curie got fouled twice in this play. Initially by Kubek right there, and then by Abdelnaby coming in second.
Ron Curie sat out a year because of an alcohol problem. Truly one of the great stories on this Arkansas team. And I think he, more than anybody on his squad, reflects the leadership ability of Nolan Richardson. He sat out a year, came back, battles his problem, attends AA meetings regularly. And here he is in a Final Four. Missing at the free throw line, however, making it still 27-20 Duke.
Arkansas had big problems from the free throw line against Texas. That's going to get him in trouble. That's a walk.
Oh my God!
Arkansas ball.
Allah thought he got fouled, but he almost walked across the lane before he ever got the shot off. There's that big overplay man-to-man by Duke. Just won't let you throw the ball to the forward.
Bowers comes out to get the pass. He's out now with Curie, Mayberry, Miller, and Day.
They'll give Bowers the shot.
Another good defensive play by the Blue Devils. This time there's no defense for that. They got to give the big O, and he doesn't miss a jam. What's he missed? About 4 or 5 jams in the NCAA.
Good pump.
Smooth Phil Henderson. That's a second field goal.
More and more kids are going to get used to that particular fake with everybody challenging the three-point shot.
And that's going to be Henderson's personal, his second of the game. Abdelnaby with 2 and Bricky with 2.
You can see Mike Krzyzewski coming back with Leitner. Again, rotating his 2 big men. He may have to go down that bench a little deeper with big people if any further foul trouble comes up. He's got Crawford Palmer over there. Now, the big guy doing a pretty good job in minutes played. Brent carrying all that body, what, 270 pounds. I got a kick out of some fans yesterday mentioning to me they thought that he was wearing a sweatsuit underneath his jersey. I said, no, that's all Oliver there.
Should call him the bigger O.
That's right. Zone pressure. Leitner's been a problem for Arkansas because he's a big target.
Early, quickly brings it across. Miller with good hands knocked that ball out of bounds. He's a fine passing big man, very soft hands that he was able to flick that ball out of bounds. Duke will set it up now with 6:27 left here in the first half. The Blue Devils have led it all the way in case you just tuned in, and they're up by 6 now, 29-23.
See Arkansas on the out of bounds, playing that zone.
Henderson's 3 from outside is shortened. Miller with the rebound. And he goes into Kubek.
Well, Kubek picked up a cheap one there because Oliver Miller with that big body had no place to come down. Kubek was right underneath him, and before Miller could gather himself, he gets called for a charge. We'll see it right here. See, he had no place to come down. I think the incorrect call there.
And a very tough call to make because that's the 3rd personal on Oliver Miller, and it puts the big man for the Razorbacks in serious trouble here in the first half at 6:19. Billy, you're absolutely right on that replay. Not that you aren't always.
Well, you have to give a 270-pounder some room to land.
Credit. He will now fill in, see if he can pick it up. That's his first field goal of the game, so it's 25. Razorbacks are right back in it. They were down by as many as 11, remember.
Henderson talking to the officials, saying they're cutting my legs out underneath me on the jump shots, which has been the case.
Bricky swings free and wants Leitner. And Leitner fouled by Howell.
The game being called very close on the inside. You know, you see officials get into patterns. Fouls are called down in around the basket, but not on the perimeter.
Trubeck out, and Davis returning.
We talked about Lindsey Howell coming on the scene. There we see Oliver just sitting back a little bit. Remember Leitner last year, the great game he had against Georgetown to put Duke really in the Final Four at that time.
If you're wondering about the altitude and the thin air that they're playing in, you see some of the exhausted faces out here. All the teams and the trainers have oxygen available. However, not all of them choose to use it. It's individual choice. Las Vegas, which we'll play later, will have a tank there. On the turnover, it'll be Hurley.
Leitner got hit in the face.
Henderson's three is off the mark, but Davis with an offensive rebound. That long rebound off the missed three becoming so important now in the college game.
Good job by Credit to come out and play Leitner. He has to stay with him out there. Leitner is the outlet man both against the press and when they get in trouble on half court. Arkansas big men will have to step out and help.
Davis, crowd wanted traveling, and contact underneath is going to go against Duke, and I believe that is Bricky's third personal. It is. And Abdel Nabi will check back in the game.
Both teams picking up some fouls against key players. Bricky because he matches up so well with Howell.
You know, the more we see, the more we like the 6-foul rule.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't think this game at this point has been officiated very well. And I think that the players are trying to now adjust to the officiating instead of the other way around.
It would be somewhat difficult in a Final Four game involving Arkansas because of the style that they bring to the game. That helter-skelter approach. A lot of reaching, pressure defense, and they need a little leeway, don't they?
Well, it's something that you have to judge as a player in a hurry, as Henderson just noted before when he talked to the official. If they're going to allow hand checking out front, you got to get used to it and maybe do a little of your own on the other end of the floor.
31-27, Day with 9 points and 6 rebounds. Davis breaks free on the inside, and Howell took a foul that time, and that's his second.
Duke getting the inbounds pass against that press. Nolan Richardson talking to Mayberry right now, and I don't blame him at all, because you can't allow just a simple pass inbounds to Bobby Hurley, because he'll lead the break with just only one pass as an outlet. But Nolan wants, particularly against the Duke team that's out there now with Leitner and Abdel Nabi in the game at the same time, he sure wants to use that full court pressure.
Really, I think that Bobby Hurley is fighting an upset stomach. He took that time to go over to the bench and get himself a quick drink of water. Coach K with a couple of words for him. Remember, he had to leave the floor a little bit early in the game, and I think the young man has got a little case of the nerves that bothered him.
Tough kid, though. He played 43 minutes against Connecticut, against what I thought was one of the best pressing teams in America.
33-27, 6-point Blue Devil lead. Inside of 5 minutes here in the first half.
Duke goes zone for the first time in the game. So a little departure from his teacher, Bob Knight. The fact that Mike will play more than just man-to-man.
Howell on the inside with a field goal. The three-point game of the Razorbacks just hasn't been there. Day almost stole it, but it was out of bounds. Duke ball.
But then one of the reasons for that, I think Duke does an excellent job defending the three. It's one thing to be able to shoot it. It's another thing to be able to go out and prevent good three-point shooting teams from getting the shot they want.
They're 0 for 3 from three-point land.
Bobby Hurley sitting down on that dribble, making it tough to take it away from him.
Beautiful by Davis that time on the penetration. Hit the field goal off the dribble to make it 35-29 Duke. There's their first three.
And again, the matchup with Leitner going out there, not used to guarding a man that far out on the perimeter.
That's 12 points now for Day as he launches their first successful three quickly into the hands of Henderson here.
Henderson again gets his legs knocked out.
And Leitner coming back, and the foul underneath goes against Arkansas.
Now Henderson was not planning on taking that shot. He was looking to pass, but there was no lane open, and he threw up the shot and went flat down on his back.
Thomas Hill, the 6'4" freshman, returning for the Blue Devils, and Abdul Nabi will again sit down. Despite all the problems that Arkansas has experienced here in the first half, foul and otherwise, you take a look at the scoreboard and it's only 35-32.
Excellent point, Brent, because I think Nolan Richardson is creating the kind of game that he wants. He doesn't want to see anything that's a beautiful picture. He wants the good hand checking, forcing Duke to get out of their pattern offense.
They should probably hire Pollock Jackson to paint a picture. The Arkansas team. We'll be right back. Well, Coach Nolan Richardson of Arkansas not happy with the officiating, barking at referee Jerry Donahue, and he had said going down the floor, we'll beat all three before this is over. Nolan Richardson was one of the great all-around high school athletes down in the state of Texas. His best sport may have been baseball. He hit 26 home runs in a high school season, including 4 in one game. He later had a tryout with a professional football team, the San Diego Chargers of the old AFL, then the ABA with the Dallas Chaparrals. The man knows any sport you want to play. Out of bounds, and it'll stay with Duke.
First played for Don Haskins in college, was a scorer before Haskins got there, and Haskins took one look at him and said, son, you can't guard a telephone pole. Now his teams play great defense.
So let me correct that. I said Duke. It was Arkansas's ball, and Howell gets back up to the free throw line as Hill will be assessed his first personal of the game.
Howell is just so tough to defend. You know, he gets the ball, he doesn't put it on the floor a lot except to explode to the basket. He gets himself open by excellent movement without the ball. Just a real fine college player.
It seems like the whistles have been one way, but that's not the case. There have been 10 fouls called on Arkansas and 10 called on Duke. 3:21 to go. It's a 3-point Blue Devil lead. Passions running high, especially at the Arkansas end.
So you're telling me the officiating is consistent, or are you saying it's consistently bad?
I'll let you interpret that stat.
All right. So far, I think they've had a much more ragged game than have the players.
Henderson up on top, Mayberry on him.
Good steal.
As is stolen by Howell.
Just doesn't make mistakes. Duke got out of that zone in a hurry, didn't they? Back to their man-to-man.
Howell with the jump shot. It's a 2, and that's 10 points for senior forward Lindsey Howell, and he has tied this game. First time we've been tied since we began. 36 all at the 2:45 mark. They get it into Davis's hands, comes with the jam, and another foul on the inside, and this one going against Mario Credit. Will put Davis on that line, and that is number 3 on Credit.
Well, Brett Davis is coming off the floor very positively on the offensive end. Now, this young man averages 5 points a game, but every time he's touched the ball, he's been looking to score. No question in his mind there, and Credit, instead of moving his body over and squaring up to draw the charge, tried to go for the block.
This is Larry Marks, junior out of Columbia, Tennessee, checking in for the first time. He goes 6'7", 240 pounds. Marks will have to play because both of the big fellas Credit and Miller are now saddled with 3 personal fouls apiece.
Davis had an interesting summer. Worked for Terry Sanford in Washington, D.C.
Going 1 for 2. Putting Duke up by 1. Mayberry.
Great
it's
block.
Blocked beautifully by Henderson into Leitner's hands. Hayes triple teamed and he stepped out of bounds. And Mike's going to protest that he was pushed.
This is some block by Henderson against Mayberry. Mayberry is so good at protecting that ball. Just got way up in the air, did Phil Henderson.
Razorback ball, looking for their first lead in this game. Down by 1. Mayberry, and it was Henderson again who was with him. And the Blue Devils come away with it. Hill, the rebound into Hurley's hands.
Hey, his shooters are having a hard time. Thought Mayberry got fouled on that play.
Mayberry only 1 of 7 so far in this game. Henderson. It's a 3-point lead again at the 2-minute mark. About time for Mayberry to launch another 3. But look at how far out Henderson picks him up. He gives him no daylight out at the perimeter.
Day is the man I thought was going to get ready to score. There he goes. You know, he's a guy I think can have a big game here.
He already is. Yeah. 14.
They're putting so much pressure on Mayberry that I think that it's time for Day to go ahead and look for a shot even more often.
Henderson, it's a 3. Makes it 42-38. 1:27 to go first half.
They had to find somebody to go to, and it's been Henderson again in the NCAA tournament doing the job. A senior who almost didn't come back to Duke University. Remember last year he stepped out and said he was going to transfer.
And a foul is against Duke. Davis. And that's number 1.
Well, Mike Krzyzewski getting pretty good play off his bench. When you figure Kubek came in, gave him some quality minutes. Davis, Hill doing likewise. So both teams getting great play from their bench. And they're going to need it as this game is starting to wear on the players, both physically and I think a little bit mentally with the rough play.
And Howell is also scoring in double figures. He has 11. Day coming to that free throw line with 14 points and 7 rebounds. Thomas Hill with a stiff neck being administered over there on the Duke bench. Mike Krzyzewski calling the play over there. You could hear it in the background. Perhaps he said we're going to run the 2 cross is the next play when they come down the floor. Ron Heary checking in for Arkansas.
They pick up straight man in that press. Again, has been the case all day.
Hurley
near the outlet.
Bringing it across, and he is fouled.
Big break
so
for
Murray
Duke.
Gets him, and Billy, we can remind everybody that at the conclusion of this NCAA semifinal, we'll select the Chevrolet players of the game. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 to the general scholarship fund of both Duke and Arkansas. It's 42-40 right now with Kubek checking back in for the Blue Devils.
Brent, I saw on that Chevy little shot there, Alonzo Mourning, Chris Jackson, and Ramil Robinson. Who would have ever thought when this season started that none of those 3 would have been in the Final Four? This year's Final Four.
So Hurley on the scoreboard for the first time with that free throw. But he actually has shown a lot of poise in handling that ball. He doesn't look like a freshman. He's got the ball in his hands. Saved, and it's Murray bringing it up for the Razorbacks. Murray will launch a 3, and it's on the money. Now, they don't expect him to shoot, but down where he grew up, he was a pretty good shooter. And he was right on the money with that one to tie the score at 43 inside of a minute here in the first half.
Well, that was his 20th 3 on the year, which is a lot of 3s for a guy coming off the bench.
Henderson fouled. will come back up. And the way the whistles are sounding, we may not have any players eligible at the end of this game.
Well, a couple of things that are showing up here, Brent. I think that when we talk about the second game, and I don't want to get by this one, but Georgia Tech with that very short bench, if the games are going to be played this way from a standpoint of the rough style and the necessity to go to your bench, they're going to have a problem because both of these teams are blessed with a deep bench, as is UNLV.
Well, this has been the tournament of the buzzer beater, close game, last minute dramatics, and nothing different here, is it? 44-43 right now. Final minute of the first half.
Henderson has now become, as his day with Arkansas, Duke's all-time three-point shooter. Of course, we ought to point out the three-point play hasn't been around that long, but still he takes that lead in his career.
Murray looking for Mayberry.
Duke really extending their defense now. Down to 30 seconds, looking to go for one.
Shot clock has been turned off with Arkansas trailing it by 2.
And I'm sure Nolan Richardson would like to have Lindsey Howell and Day on the floor now.
It's about the longest you'll ever see the Razorbacks stand still on a basketball court.
Clear out for Mayberry on a one-on-one move against Henderson.
Henderson with him. Mayberry's up. Off the rim. Leitner with a strong rebound, and a foul is called on Hawkins from behind. Leitner will be coming up to the free throw line with less than 4 seconds to go.
You see Mike Krzyzewski liking that rebounding technique. And Nolan Richardson just hoping that Mayberry had hung on to that ball a little longer, but he was stuck in the fact that he had neither of his 2 big men in the game because of the 3 foul trouble. He didn't have his 2 key scorers in the game for that last second situation.
Now, Arkansas still could get a good opportunity here. 3.8 seconds left.
Nolan Richardson, we could hear him from the side. He said, refs, you're not calling anything. They're just pushing him on the foul line. Speaking of Kubek down there on hearing.
We've had 41 free throws shot in the first half of this basketball game as Murray launches one at the buzzer, and Hurley did a very good job of not giving him any daylight as he comes down the floor. So that's the end of the first half with the score. Duke 46, Arkansas 43. And we'll continue after this message and a word from your local station. And Billy, the Blue Devils lead it by 3. There have been 41 free throws shot in this game so far. Your feeling about that?
Well, I think the officials have had a hard time getting the game under control, and I think that there has been kind of a discouraging situation for the players because they're not sure exactly how the game is going to be called. Obviously, the coaches had to make major adjustments going to their bench early. And Arkansas probably got the worst of it in the fact that their 2 big men both have 3 fouls on them, but credit's going to start.
Arkansas in the dark jerseys with the ball to start the second half. Howell working with the ball in the paint, comes up with the jump shot, and Abdel Nabi pulls down another rebound. Abdel Nabi in that first half scored 12 points. Leitner had 10. So down on the inside, Duke has been tough. There's the pass to Leitner, and it goes over. The outside official, Jim Burr, picked it up on the back end, calling the second personal against Leitner, and Krzyzewski can't believe it, that the outside man would look in and make the call. And Coach K starts the second half with a mad on.
But Leitner's playing Howell. That's an interesting matchup because he's not used to going that far outside. Mike Krzyzewski saying, hey, Bricky has got to play Day.
Anderson's lob for Leitner.
Beautiful pass.
Nice pass to Bricky. Wasn't that pretty?
Gorgeous pass.
Duke builds a 5-point lead, Billy.
Howell again, a little too small for Leitner. By about 5 inches.
Bad pass. Bowers knocks it into Henderson's hands. Now he'll have to defend 3-on-1, and it gets away from Bricky. He picks it back up, and the reverse wraparound, and Duke spurts 50-43, and Arkansas is going to use an early timeout. He really looks more like a wounded basset hound than a shark, doesn't he? But Jerry Tarkanian will be out in the second game with UNLV against Georgia Tech. And they'll meet the winner of this one Monday night for the national championship. Duke leading at 50-43. Arkansas ball. Mayberry trying to get involved offensively, missing again. Tapped into Henderson's hands.
Henderson saw Howell coming and moved the ball to the other hand. Very nice play.
Good pass from Henderson to Leitner, and Duke inside starting to dominate now. Mayberry outside is only 1 of 9, so Day, and he misses from three-point range. Arkansas ball.
Now here's some really outstanding coaching by Nolan Richardson. His club down, struggling, and instead of going with his first team for too long, he said, I'm bringing in the shock troops here, get me back in the game. Great confidence in your bench.
You know, they did it in the first half. Let's think back to that 11-point lead. He did this earlier, and they hustled him back in. Hawkins is out there. Miller is out there. Fury will take the ball out of bounds. He's playing with that knee brace on his left knee, but it has been getting stronger and stronger as the tournament progresses.
And I think they've got to figure out a way to get Mayberry doing something offensively. He's really struggling.
Henderson has really wrapped him up with those long arms. And here's Mayberry quickly getting outside for the three, and he continues to miss. He had daylight that time. Into Bricky's hands. So now we have Credit and Miller working together against the big men on the low blocks. And Duke is 9-0, carrying over from the first half. Since they were tied at 43, Duke has scored the last 9 points, and they lead at 52-43.
Duke not looking to go inside. I think maybe a little bit of a mistake here. They want to pick up more foul trouble on Miller and Credit. Nice defense.
That was Leitner, Duke's ball.
Credit is standing straight up. Leitner and Abdelnaby are coming around him very easily, so he's not handling the ball in the low post. Very lethargic situation there, and he's got to pick up his tempo a great deal. Now Abdelnaby has Credit on him, and he's going to get this ball.
Hurley traveled. And didn't agree with the call, as you can see.
Mike Krzyzewski even getting his hair messed up a little bit over there on the sidelines.
First time I think I've ever seen that.
That's right, and Hurley's is always messed up. I think he went to that barber in Salt Lake City, Brent, to get one of those $3 haircuts.
They ship it in now to Miller. Again, it was Leitner holding his ground, going straight up, not taking a foul. Hurley's all alone. Misses the three.
Ooh, great
but it's
rebound.
Bricky with the rebound for the Blue Devils.
Boy, did he go in the air. They need to be looking inside a little bit. They've gotten to the perimeter game completely.
Henderson will take it inside. Nice shot. It's 54-43. They build an 11-point margin. That was their biggest lead of the first half. It's back to that now. And Arkansas looking for a score. Hawkins coming down, and he drew the foul.
Hawkins, like Lindsey Howe, really cuts well when he doesn't have the ball. And a good look by Day, who I thought was now looking to try to put up a shot a little bit too quickly. He's getting frustrated.
Game one of our doubleheader today with Billy Packer. I'm Brent Musburger. The sold-out McNichols Arena, and I do mean sold out. This is just about the toughest ticket we've ever been around in this or any other event. Of course, with UNLV not too far away, they've added pressure. A lot of Arkansas fans here. Duke and Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech, they brought their supporters out of the Southeast too. So Duke, after opening the game with an 8-point spurt, does the same thing in the second half. And as the result, they lead it by 10 with Hawkins trying to whittle it down, and he does with 2 free throws.
Hey, Brett, we talked about Mayberry not off to a very good start, and there comes Lindsey Howe back in. But Duke has held opponents' guards in this NCAA tournament down to shooting 32 for 108, 29%. So
Really lost it.
Defense.
Billy, I think the only guard who lit him up was Gwynn of Connecticut. He couldn't miss against Coach K's defense.
And one of the reasons, of course, Connecticut made the great run. He came off the bench just firing in every game through the Big East tournament and the NCAA tournament.
Early with Mayberry. Mayberry muscles free. Gets the jump shot. And now Hurley gets bumped coming back the other way. So they They sandwiched him that time.
Miller on Kubek. They ought to clear out for him. He can handle Kubek. He's in trouble.
And
Fourth
Miller
foul.
commits number 4, and it was a silly foul.
Well, Brent, what was the situation there? Miller got caught on a switch against a fellow who plays small forward. So here he was 35 feet away from the basket in an area where he doesn't normally play defensively.
Kubek has had 2 pretty good moments in this game,
Yes, he
drawing
has.
fouls. Remember, he caught him earlier in the first half on that rebound when he came off.
Exactly. That's a big problem there now for Nolan Richardson, because Miller, as we said, made all tournament down in the regional. And now he goes out, and Credit has not picked up his game.
Oh, that's a foul on Abdel Nabi. There was no question. He was backing in on Credit, and that is number 3.
And here Abdel Nabi has no reason to get aggressive. They've got Miller in foul trouble, and what he wants to do is just be patient now. Let his team get him the ball down low.
I think he was saying, hey, scouts, look at me. I can back in. I can post it up with the big fellas. Mayberry getting inside now and starting to get on track here. He puts 2 quick field goals together, 54-49.
What Duke is going to have to do is when he reverse dribbles at the top of the key, they're going to have to double team because he's going over Hurley.
Kubek. Davis with an offensive rebound. Put it right back into Hawkins' hands, however. Howell off with it now, and here comes Mayberry. Lead pass to Day. He's going to go for the 3. Back up, and he hit it.
Great play by Day.
Makes it 54-52 now. Long pass to Davis. Pace starting to pick up. Krzyzewski calls a timeout. He's furious with the officiating. A 9-0 Arkansas run. Timeout. Folks, he discovered that basketball was a revenue sport, and he's the man who stood solidly behind Nolan Richardson in those first 2 troubling years. He said that Richardson combines authority with compassion better than any coach I have ever been around. At no time did I ever think of getting rid of him. And now here are the Razorbacks.
Great man-to-man and playing hard-nosed defense right now. Duke wanting to go to Henderson, who's picked up by Day. It's been the best man-to-man defense in the game for Arkansas.
Razorbacks start to dig in. And foul is on Credit, and now he has 4. And now there is a real problem for Arkansas. Both Miller and Credit, 4 fouls apiece. There is your storyline of this game.
Well, Brent, the point for Nolan Richardson, he wanted to pick up tempo. He was getting much better tempo with his man-to-man than he was with the zone. The problem is Miller and Credit both couldn't step out to play a guy one-on-one.
I really don't want this to be misinterpreted, and I'm not whining about this, but the 6th foul does take a lot of pressure off the officials. The players should be allowed to decide the outcome of the games, and this is going to be a war of attrition. There's no question about it, folks. We're into that situation. We got 14:42 to go.
Brent, have you been conversing with Jimmy Boeheim and the guys from the Big East? What's the deal here?
Well, their referees like it too, you know. I think Dave Gavitt is the man who's solidly behind that. Lead pass now up front to Hawkins. Out of bounds, Arkansas.
But one thing is very obvious. When you're back to 5 free throws, or 5 fouls, it really does put the strategy back into the game for the coach in terms of what he can do when his big people get in trouble. And I'd look for Duke to go down on Credit the next time down floor, try to get him out of there.
He comes up with a shot on the inside.
Gutsy play because he's got to worry about picking up the charge offensively.
Now, Abdel Nabi has been quiet. He had 12 points the first 9 minutes of this game, and none since for Duke. They need to try and get him back into the offensive flow.
Good job by Credit.
Here's Abdel Nabi coming up with it.
You called his number.
58-54.
See if anybody comes to help out when Mayberry takes Hurley this next time.
It's knocked away. Good defense by Abdel Nabi.
Almost picked up the 5th.
And there, Davis got away with the travel, didn't he?
Lindsey Howell playing on Leitner, and Leitner wanting something down low for himself.
They Jumping into Abdelnaby. Howell anticipated. Lead, here's Day. And Leitner probably should not have taken the foul in that situation. He could have given a layup to Day going through and not have risked it. That is the 4th personal foul on Christian Leitner, and it was not good judgment.
You're exactly right, Brent, for the simple reason Day is the kind of guy who can put the shot away. It's not like he was going up against somebody not capable of finishing the break. You can see it right there, a big gamble on his part. Just a sophomore.
Day with a chance to complete the three-pointer. Leitner will sit down, and number 45, Clay Buckley, the junior from Wayne, Pennsylvania, who is 6'10", was number 45. So he comes in for the first time in this game. And at this point, you wonder if maybe Coach Richardson won't send Larry Marks out there to go against him. But instead, it is going to be Oliver Miller, who will re-enter now and see how he can handle the situation with 4 fouls.
And Clay Buckley's name may ring a bell for Duke historians because his father Jay played in the Final Four with Vic Bubas.
Goes back to Duke. Arkansas almost forced a turnover. Play is set by Krzyzewski from the sideline. Duke leading it by a point. 13:20 to go.
Mayberry looking to steal this ball.
Bricky cut off by Howell beautifully. Miller helps. Now Bricky on the inside creates the field goal. 10 now for Bricky. Long pass to Howell. Makes the catch in the corner. They punch to Miller. They wanted a foul called against Duke. Didn't get it. It'll be Day with a 3, and he's on the money. Ties it up.
Beautiful pass by Oliver Miller, who sees as well as anybody in the low post in college ball.
What a stroke Day has got. His 4th three-pointer of the game. Tying it again at 60. 12:30. Kubek left alone. Not there. Miller strongly brings down the rebound and puts it into Mayberry's hands. Razorbacks seem to be drawing some confidence. Howell coming down the baseline, and Kubek got him.
Mike Krzyzewski looks out on the floor and has an unusual lineup out there for him. He has to figure out where's the scoring come from. Kubek not wanting to take the jumper. Comes with McCaffrey back.
I want to remind everybody about the women's championship game. Stanford versus Auburn tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern Time on CBS. And Abdelnaby here has returned, and Buckley will sit back down with the score tied at 60. Billy?
What Mike Krzyzewski is thinking, he took Hurley out and said, you know, my team is wearing down a little bit. You better let Hurley get a chance to rest, even though this is a critical juncture in the game.
That's McCaffrey who had checked back in. Here it is Murray. Henderson lets him go on the inside. It is Bowers double team. Gets it back to Murray. Left-handed field goal. He's hit a couple of big ones at 3. And now that deuce on the inside. Arkansas leads it 11:53. Their first lead of the game. Here's Henderson. Up there, but it's tapped in for the tie by Bricky. And that's a dozen points for Bricky. We're going to have a great one. It's 11:40 to go. From the corner, Bowers has the baseline, puts it down, 64-62. Foul trouble caused him to be a little cautious out on the inside that time, and Arkansas made him pay. Now McCaffrey under intense trouble from Day.
Bowers is too quick for McCaffrey and sensed it and went right on by him. Be interesting to see how long Mike Krzyzewski keeps Hurley on the bench. Probably like to rest him for a couple of minutes.
The pace definitely picking up here. Mayberry, Curie checking in. Day and Credit sit down. So Curie is out there with Murray and Mayberry. Miller and Hawkins for the Razorbacks. Great steal. He'll be all alone. McCaffrey's blocked for the layup. And Credit Murray with a tremendous screen over there on the other side. He never let McCaffrey get by him.
Great defensive pressure now by Arkansas. They've taken Duke out of their offense.
The gang that is hanging tough, the Razorbacks from Arkansas. They lead it by 4, and now they're all over Duke.
And boy, do they miss Hurley right now.
They ship Kubek on the inside, and here he goes after him. Now it's Hawkins coming out. Here's Mayberry. Picked up by Bricky. Here he off the fake. They'll go to the baseline, and the foul is called.
He stepped out of bounds.
He stepped out of bounds, down on the baseline.
Great steal on the double team. Henderson never knew anybody was behind him. And there goes the dunk. Arkansas really
turnover. Hillary, score it and put him on the line. Duke calls a timeout. Brent Musburger with Billy Packer, McNichols Arena, Denver, Colorado. The first of 2, and Arkansas on a 25-8 run since Duke took an 11-point lead, 54-43.
Brent, I think it's been the bench and excellent substituting by Nolan Richardson, showing the confidence in that bench. It just upped the pressure. Even when he fell way behind here at the start of the second half, he went right to that bench, and it's been a key for him. They've worn Duke down and forced Duke to go to a lineup that really doesn't suit them.
A 7-point Arkansas lead with Howell on the floor. Miller sitting back down.
And they've done it with man-to-man. This has not been the Arkansas matchup zone.
Bricky
He was looking to pass.
went back and got his own miss. 14 points for Bricky. He's tied with Abdel Nabi, but Abdel Nabi had a dozen early, and then he's relatively quiet since then.
Lindsey Howell looking to take the dribble on Leitner.
Triple teamed. Duke ball, outlet, Henderson, Mayberry back. He spins inside.
Oh, left hand.
Play by Phil Henderson.
The only way he could get that shot off was to switch it to the left hand. Beautiful play. He feels the double team coming, switches it over and puts it back left-handed. Sensational play.
I'll tell you who appreciated this a lot was that man you saw watching it, the athletic director at Duke, Tom Butters, as you take a look at this outlet pass and watch this spin that Billy described. And now Phil comes to the line.
Well, we talked about, there is Tom Butters. We talked about one of the keys to this game was fill her up. And Henderson certainly did it there. You really have a contest of wills now, as usually is the case in the Final Four. Both of these teams going after each other really with a lot of physical contact.
Arkansas has hit 7 in a row. That's their first miss in 8 shots. Duke ball.
Bricky and Lindsey Howell, 2 great swingmen type players battling each other, and Bricky has a little bit more leaping ability.
The team foul situation, though, has turned against Krzyzewski this half. 16 fouls on Duke and 3 against the Razorbacks.
You notice this press is not guarding the man taking the ball out of bounds, which leaves the safety man back. Now Arkansas is playing with no big men in the game at all, which gives them a great quickness.
Razorbacks ball went off Leitner and out of bounds.
And they get even smaller because Bowers comes in to take Murray's place. So the tallest man they got out here is Day right now.
Knocked out of bounds by Davis. So the Razorbacks will set a play from out of bounds with the score 69-67. Arkansas leading it by 2.
Remember, Leitner has 4, and he's trying to guard Curie or Howell, and they're trying to take him one-on-one.
Bowers off the fake, and he gives it up, and here's Curie with a 2 short into the hands of Leitner. Outlet. Duke comes back 2-on-2. The Razorbacks get back, and Davis with a miss into the hands of Bowers. Arkansas applying that pressure. Mayberry's 3 is short again. He's been short all day from 3-point range. Leitner now to Bricky. It's 2-on-1. Back to Leitner.
And he got pushed from behind, not called.
They got to hurry back now. Score tied at 69. 9 minutes to go. 7 straight points by the Blue Devils. This has been a game of streaks. Off for the miss. Lindsey Howell gets it back.
Nice job by Day to pull it out. Fury taking shots that Nolan Richardson doesn't want right now. Good smart play by Day.
Day on the pull-up.
Beautiful shooter.
27 points for Todd Day here this afternoon. He's been magnificent, and he takes a foul on Bricky. And on Day, that's his 3rd personal foul.
Brent, I always respected Day in terms of his great shooting ability, his passing ability, but I didn't know how tough he was until we did that game in Las Vegas, where he was really challenged by the likes of Stacey Augmon and held in there and played a great game. He is one of the nation's best players without question, even though he's just a sophomore.
Credit with 4 personals on the floor, along with Miller.
Some great substituting going on by both coaches in a chess match. Nolan Richardson comes back with his 2 big guys, even though they're in foul trouble. So Mike Krzyzewski decides to counter by bringing Alo Abdelnaby back in there. Be interesting to see if he stays with Leitner or goes small. With this lineup, Arkansas will not be able to press as well, but obviously they have much more rebounding power.
Mickey Krzyzewski quietly watching. You really have to feel for all of the wives, but they can't do anything about it. They can't send any subs in or yell at the referee. They just got to sit there and agonize while their husbands work down on the floor. It goes with a lot of the mothers of the athletes, too. 71-70 now. Arkansas with the ball in a 1-point lead. They tried to punch it in. Leitner gambled that time. Got it out for Credit and out of bounds.
Brent, Credit just does not sit down when the ball is passed to him. He stands straight up, making it very easy to come around him. He's got a big enough body to block people off. That time he could have picked up a foul on Leighton.
Arkansas uses a timeout at the 8:23 mark. And we'll come right back to McNichols in a moment. Arkansas leading it by 1 behind 27 points by their scoring leader during the regular season, Todd Day. And the Razorbacks find themselves with a couple of fouls to give. In case the ball is tied up, it'll be Duke's possession out of bounds. Foul trouble, a big story here, certainly as far as the big men inside are concerned. 3 of them saddled with 4 fouls apiece. And Nolan Richardson concerned with 8:20 to go and hoping that Credit and Miller, both of whom are on the floor right now, and a coaching gamble, can stay out there and finish up this game. Davis forced to bring it back to Hurley, who has scored only 1 point, and that on a free throw in the first half. He sent it to Henderson, who arches in a 3 for Duke, and that's 21 points for Henderson.
Oh, great catch.
Howell, who is scoreless in the second half, on the receiving end.
Brendan, you can see what Nolan Richardson did that last time down court. He's going to try to save his 2 big men by playing the zone.
Day rattled out, Credit going for it, and it'll be Howell with his first field goal of the second half.
Leitner could not afford to come over his back with a foul. Now you notice they've got away from the press. They're going with their big lineup, staying back in the zone.
Miller is in the middle. Now he's behind Abdelnaby. They hit Leitner, bounces it to Abdelnaby, and Miller goes up and rejects it. Henderson has it. Credit couldn't take the foul, held his ground, and now the foul is going to be called, and it's going to be against Duke. And on Davis, that's number 2.
A little intimidation by Oliver Miller. We said the Big O would be a key in this game, and he certainly was here. Not only is he trying to protect himself from not going out on fouls, but he comes up with a brilliant block, and as we said, it's the leading shot blocker Arkansas has ever had, knocking off Andrew Lang's record that he held up till today.
Bricky returning for the Devils. And Leitner sits down.
I tell you, you have to have a lot of guts as a coach to sit there with 2 key players, had 4 fouls and went to the zone.
Very critical now for Arkansas with Duke over the limit and 7 minutes and 18 seconds to go. to hit that front end, as Credit did, giving them the bonus. He didn't hit it, but they got an opportunity. Now it is Duke's ball. 74-73. Arkansas with the lead.
Now you have to think about jump shooters here. Henderson about all they've got.
Into the hands of Bricky. An opportunity basket, and he went down hard. He's playing with an injured knee, bad hamstring. He's okay. He bounces right back up. Now it's Howell with the three at the top of the circle. Arkansas leads it, and Lindsey Howell.
Oh, and Phil Henderson took a shot. He's a little woozy on the sidelines. Brent, as versatile as Howell is, can you imagine throughout his career he did not make a three-point shot until this year's Southwest Conference tournament? Phil Henderson is really woozy out there. He took a shot.
They really need Hurley to start getting some penetration here and pull some of the defenders out if they can. He pops one into Abdel-Nabi.
Oh, another great
Miller with a great play and into the hands of Bricky.
And Mike Krzyzewski getting exactly what he wants. The ball down inside low to get Miller out of the game, but they can't do it.
Deep to Abdel-Nabi. Nice pass by Hurley. Later off as Abdel-Nabi missed the layup. Score it, and the foul is called down on the inside.
That'll be all for Credit. Well, Nolan Richardson did a masterful job keeping those two big guys in the game. They had 3 fouls on him for a long time. There's the lob over the top of Lindsey Howell. Miller again with great defense. Leitner has the inside position. Credit on his back.
Credit, a senior, receiving an ovation from the Arkansas fans. And if the Razorbacks are unable to pull this one out without their starting center, that will have been his last appearance for Arkansas. So it's going to be tough now with the foul situation. 6:22, and we've lost our first player. Leitner with 4 and 16 points and 10 rebounds makes it 17 and gives the Devils a 1-point lead.
And now the key is, will they go down and try to get Miller out of it?
Howell is short and into Mayberry's hands, and good anticipation by Bricky. Stepped into the passing lane, took it away from Urey, and now it's Hurley bringing it up. As it knocked free on the turnover, they bust out 3-on-1. Only Bricky. Mayberry hits the trail man Howell, and a foul is called on Davis.
Sensational play by Mayberry, who led his league in steals. Hurley did not protect the ball. Mayberry's quickness came from behind. Even when you beat somebody, when they have that ability, you can see what was a great play by Mayberry. He came down from underneath the ball instead of slapping on top. If you slap on top, of course, you pick up that foul.
2 shots.
Tied.
And Brent, you know, with 6 minutes to go, you feel there's another run coming for both teams in this game. Right now, you would have to think, because of the way Nolan Richardson is substituted, he's got a fresher 5 out on the floor than does Duke.
Arkansas up a point at the 6-minute mark. Leitner looks at Abdel-Nabi. Miller cuts him off.
They're wanting to go to Abdel-Nabi with Miller on him.
Miller with 4 fouls stays with him. Abdel-Nabi gets the roll.
Now, Oliver Miller's not backing down.
Mayberry under pressure. Finds Urey coming out, and this is Day now with possession. They have to respect him from any spot on that floor. Coming into the inside. Leitner rebounding.
They've got
Off
the fast break.
3-on-1 advantage, only Mayberry. Abdel-Nabi is wrapped up and fouled by Mayberry. Mayberry takes his first foul of the game.
That was an excellent foul on Mayberry's part. Took away what was a 3-on-1 break. Duke maybe tried to force it a little bit too quick in there.
Davis for the Blue Devils and Bowers for the Razorbacks. Checking in as Day sits down.
That's the point I just made a second ago, in the fact that Nolan Richardson probably also feels he's got plenty of time in this game because of the runs that have been made to save Day for the last 4 minutes.
Bricky also sits down as Abdel-Nabi gives Duke a 2-point lead.
Based on Denny Crum's statement to me yesterday, he said the last 6 minutes at altitude is when your players start to fall off in efficiency if they're not rested, and Duke is kind of tired right now.
Abdelnaby with 18 points. Leitner was 17, Bricky was 17, and Henderson, the leading scorer, shaken up, returning now with 21 points on the floor for the final 5 minutes. Knocked away beautifully by Abdelnaby.
Good help by Bobby Hurley coming from the backside. Hurley's been doing a lot of things today, but he has not scored a field goal.
Hawkins.
You can see what Nolan Richardson's doing. He's saying, I'm going to run at you in the last 3 minutes of the game, and I'm coming back with Day, and I'm going to come back with Lindsey Howell rested.
Both of them out right now. So Bowers and Hawkins and Mayberry, Miller and Hurry. And the key question is, can Miller stay on the floor with the 4 personals? Mayberry with a good spinning move, comes back to the right side and buries that jump shot. A 1-point Duke lead. The press is set off the successful field goal. They hit Davis beautifully. 2-on-1. Abdelnaby comes up on Miller and gets the field goal.
And Miller did not back off again. Now that could have been the ball game right there. He is doing some job. The Big O.
Sits it back to Bowers, who comes free. Almost ran back in by Hurry. Bowers gets it back, and it's Leitner's rebound.
No defensive balance now by this Arkansas club. Breaks are available.
Henderson sets the 3.
Arkansas not getting back on defense. Nolan Richardson may have to go for a timeout here. His club a little frayed.
That's 3 3-pointers for Phil Henderson. Fury coming back in. Yanked away by Davis.
See, nobody back again.
And so it is Duke that appears more rested now as Henderson comes in for the layup. And it's 89-81. An 8-point lead. I'm out.
Forcing Arkansas to chase him, not in a total delay, but a semi-delay.
It's going to be tough against the half-court defense to start nailing threes against Duke. Henderson out on Day, so Day will put it off the dribble, draws the double team, and Henderson back to help out beautifully. This Duke defense can be so tough. And the second game, Georgia Tech and UNLV, and Mayberry misses on the 3, gets it back, comes inside now.
Oh, what a body. What a body move by Mayberry. Now it's back to man-to-man defensive pressure. Much better handled by Duke that time. Now Miller's on Abdelnaby. They're going to force him to come outside a little bit. Good move by Duke. And here's what I expected. A little semi-delay.
Henderson takes his time. Missed. They can't tap it back in. Arkansas to save it. And it is Day's ball. Day arches a 3 and not there. And Leitner brings it down. 2:40.
Here goes Hurley.
Hurley wants Abdelnaby. Finally got the handle on it.
Now the problem they have, Miller has a hard time going out and guarding somebody that far away from the floor. Abdelnaby should come out and always be the open man whenever they get tied up in a double team.
This is allowing Todd Day, at least, to catch his breath. At 2:20, they're going to need him. Now it's Henderson going inside, up over the top, and it doesn't matter.
There was a switch. A switch that time, and Miller was stuck with Henderson. Great job by Henderson to recognize that and take him one-on-one.
Henderson has scored Duke's last 7 points after returning from the nose injury. Mayberry can't find it. Duke's game to lose now. Leitner off with the rebound. They're inside at 2 minutes. They lead at 91-83. 14 rebounds for Christian Leitner.
Both of these teams are tired now. The starters for Duke have been out there what seems for them like an eternity. I would get the ball to whoever Oliver Miller is guarding and make him play somebody.
Day will come out and foul Leitner. Number 4 on Todd Day.
Brent, there's some fellas really having to suck it up out there. They're exhausted, aren't they?
Well, we can see that Richardson now taking Mayberry back out. And Cannon Whitby, a senior, checks into a Final Four with 1:38 to go, 91-83.
And a good free throw shooter on the line. Brett, these two teams were both in the Final Four in '78, but didn't play against each other, obviously. Kentucky knocked off Arkansas, and Duke beating Notre Dame to have that Duke and Kentucky matchup.
The chant in the building now is ACC, ACC for followers of Duke and Georgia Tech, which will be playing the next game. The three is short into Brickey's hands. And it now appears that Duke will head to the championship game on Monday night. Into Henderson's hands, who has been the standout after suffering that nose injury. During crunch time, it was Phil Henderson who led the way for the Duke Blue Devils.
And there's a point that Mike Krzyzewski made. Isn't it great to have fellas of that size that are good outlet pass people that you're normally going to foul, but they're the best free throw shooters. Most of the times if big men are used to step out that high, you foul them and they go to the line and they're 65% shooters.
Big game for Leitner, 19 points and 14 rebounds, 9 of 11 at the free throw line. Three-point time now for the Razorbacks.
Against a team that knows how to guard the three.
Whitby. Duke's ball.
Mike Krzyzewski going for a little bit more ball handling now. Takes out Abdelnaby, who did a good job despite his foul problems. Brent, we talked to each other and said the first team to lose their big men would be in trouble, and Arkansas, unfortunately, was that club. They lost credit. Duke kept Leitner and Abdelnaby in the game.
Early lets that clock tick down before they can finally get him at the free throw line. And the young man has played through his upset stomach here this afternoon. He was forced to leave the court in the early going. And Mickey Krzyzewski able to breathe a little sigh of relief now there with the Krzyzewski daughters.
Well, just last year, this young fellow was leading his high school team, St. Anthony's, to an undefeated season, the #1 ranked high school team in America. He's got a chance now to be the #1 ranked college team in America.
You know, we all remember the great Danny Ferry, who's over in Italy playing, and last week during the Connecticut game, he called thinking it was over, and of course they were just getting into overtime, and his friend said they got 11 seconds to go, and Danny said, well, describe the action to me. So he kept him on the phone throughout overtime, and Danny thought it was great until he got his telephone bill last week.
That's right. He doesn't have deep pockets.
Murray with the rebound. Brickey's hands, and he is fouled. 44 seconds to go now. For the last 2 years, Duke has been eliminated in the semifinals. Last year it was Seton Hall knocking them out. But 5 years ago, they made their way into the championship game against Louisville down in Dallas, and they were beaten by the Cardinals. So the Duke Blue Devils appear to be headed back for another chance at an NCAA championship. This is their 8th appearance in the Final Four, and they're still looking for title #1.
You know, Brent, on that Danny Ferry story, I understand that in his accounting of funds, he's got a $2 million contract over there in Italy, and he estimated he has spent about 550 of his own dollars on the year. Pretty good education he got.
Marks, who had replaced Miller, and it's Duke's ball going out of hand, out of bounds.
Smart play by Henderson, and Marks was trying to ward him off and wasn't paying attention to the ball.
Every senior, every four-year senior who has played for Mike Krzyzewski has earned his degree down at Duke. So this is a program that does it not only on the floor, but also in the classroom. And they'll be going back to the championship game on Monday night. Nolan Richardson, disappointment, but remember, this is a young Arkansas team. They'll be back again next year. And Duke will be back again Monday night.
For Mike Krzyzewski now, and just think of this, in the NCAA, his record moves to 21 wins and 6 losses.
And on Monday night, Duke will play the winner of our second game, matching UNLV against Georgia Tech. Lethal Weapon 3 tries to slow down the running Rebs.
They just won't give him the 3.
Taken away by Brookie. Duke was up by 1 with 4:40 to go. And after that, they dominated this game, winning it 97-83. And our Chevrolet players of this game are Phil Henderson of the winning Duke Blue Devils and Todd Day from the Arkansas Razorbacks. We're going to come back and we're going to hear from Coach Krzyzewski and Phil Henderson in just a moment.